All right, let's do this. Within Temptation featuring Gia Giesbertsen.
Volgende nummer is iets rustiger. Dat was de eerste single die we uitbrachten van de laatste CD. Dat is Arverwel.
All right, Sharon. Who is Gia? This is live, isn't it?
I can almost see your smile. Feel the warmth of your embrace. There is nothing.
She looks so young. I think it is 16:9. It's just like very small resolution. Gia, yo, coming out with that rich lyric soprano. Holy Cracker Jacks, man. All right, Gia comes out swinging hard with that lyric soprano, but this is one thing that's so cool about Sharon's voice is that it's not among the many, many women who've made their mark on symphonic metal who are, pretty classically trained or somewhere in the middle between, pop rock and classical. Someone like Floor has all of that versatility. But for the most part, we're really used to hearing that more classical sound in this genre. But Sharon's made such a strong mark, similar to Annika as well, made such a strong mark with just very like pure, almost like an indie pop sound, right? Not that indie pop was really like a huge genre back then in the early 2000s. Maybe it was. But as like a self-trained, very like uniquely talented singer I know, it's really exciting to hear her next to these more like classically trained singers. And how authentic she is to her own sound. It makes a really strong you get a really strong reaction to duets with those very, very different sounds coming from people with similar artistic takes on the repertoire. So yeah, good point, Mike.
We had no time to say goodbye.
Oracle, I think she always has.
How can the world just carry on? I feel so lost, we are not at my side.
Yes. Okay, so before we go on to this next section, Oracle, yeah, she does take a lot of softer onsets. And one thing that really contributes well to is having strong high notes. If I ever work with a student on the clinic who is too hard with their onsets and too rough, and they're having a lot of tension when it comes to the high notes, I often kind of prescribe and work with them on creating softer onsets, not balanced onsets off the bat, but creating softer onsets, because that is what allows you to sing with a more head voice dominant sound, which is exactly what Sharon does. Now, in a higher register, in a higher range of your voice, head voice dominant sound will be more clear. It'll create this really pure clarity that she has. Now, if she were to sing low with that same mechanism, it would get breathier. So if she starts a phrase low, it's going to sound breathier. But it really works well when she sings those high notes, and it's part of the niche she's worked herself into as that higher, more ethereal, soaring soprano sound than these more rich, dark lyric soprano trained singers that she works next to often. I mean, we love duets with Sharon and other singers. I think more recently she's sort of adopted a little bit of a more rich, kind of belty, more compressed sound, but it's so clear she's found this sound in her own singing, and then she fell into this niche in these earlier moments, which I think is really interesting.
There is nothing but silence now around the highland.
It's relaxed. It's high and relaxed.
Is this our farewell? Sweet darling, you were too much. My child, still sadness in your eyes.
Jarring.
You are not alone in life, although you might think that you are.
So the timbre is not, mutually exclusive with like pitch range. So they could be singing very well in the same tessitura, right? They could have the same vocal range, but the way they're singing is very different. At first, when Gia started singing before we saw her, I thought it was Taria. Yeah, she has a lot of those similar, like darker, warmer lyric soprano characteristics. Approaching dramatic soprano, right? Lyric dramatic. His voices change over time, so I'm gonna generalize, Fach, because the actual implication of those words are pretty minimal. However, keep that in mind. She does sing with a very similar technique to Taria. Forkless, thank you for that gifted sub to JBB. JBB. This is weird. They're clearly both singing, but you can only hear Sharon. Do you think this had to do with, do you think the sound guy messed up? I think the sound... Yeah, this is pretty bad sound quality. I wouldn't be surprised if the sound guy in the live moment kind of just put it only on Sharon accidentally.
Applaus voor Gea! Dankjewel! Applaus voor Gea! Dankjewel! Applaus voor Gea! 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 Applaus voor
Yeah, guys, the 90s was like just 10 years ago. Relax with that stuff. That wasn't 20 years ago. No way.